Okay, so real quick, in my last video I mentioned how if you activate Joker's or Hero's Final Smash and then go into the home menu, the Final Smash will still be playing in the background, even though it should be paused. Now a ton of you said this was because the Final Smashes here use MP4s or something along those lines. No idea why these Final Smashes get MP4s but none of the other ones do, but I really liked this food for thought mentioned by Lizard Doug on Twitter. That implies that you could replace the MP4s in the game's code with any other MP4. Now, there's no way I can do that myself, but I think the idea of replacing the video of these cutscene Final Smashes with any video you want is really funny to me, so I'd like to see the modding community get into that if they haven't already. And if they have, I'd like to see what they've done. Or if it doesn't even work like that, that'd also be cool to know. But if it can, someone should put my 70 combo video in place of Hero's Final Smash. That would make it the coolest Final Smash of all time. Speaking of cool things, this cool question by Bub regards Wario's weight when he chomps an opponent. Lucky for us, there's a stage that allows us to test things regarding weight, which we've used in the past, Mushroom Kingdom. As you can see, when I place two Warios on the scale, they balance each other out. The heights are different here, but that's only because they got on the scales at a slightly different time. Before I get into the question, I do want to quickly test waft here. And as it turns out, a Wario with no waft still weighs the same as Wario with full waft. This either means his gas doesn't weigh much at all, or he is perpetually gassy and all that changes is his fart potential, which is a fascinating subcategory of quantum physics. On to the real question though, when Mario hops into Wario's agape mouth, we'll see that his side of the scale doesn't drop. This means the weight remains the same, meaning Wario does not gain the weight of the opponent he is chopping. And interestingly enough, when Mario stands on the scale, it begins to drop, but once he gets chomped, it stops dropping. It seems being inside of Wario's mouth completely strips a character of their weight, furthering the ongoing theory that Wario's mouth is akin to a black hole. But Wario isn't the only character with an insatiable appetite and a large mouth to fit. However, the test with Kirby led to the same results. Once an opponent was in his mouth, they seemed to just completely lose their weight, thus not affecting the scale. I was also wondering if weight was just broken here, but when I tried to test it with items, it just didn't seem that the crate here affected the scale at all. I guess black hole magic is also at play with this item. That's not to say Kirby's inhale ignores the character's weight though. When Kirby inhales Mario, the star that he shoots out will deal 15%. But when he does the same thing for Donkey Kong, the star will deal 20%. And this is not due to size, but due to weight. Mewtwo is larger than Mario, but also lighter, and he deals 12% as a star, which is less than Mario. Speaking of things being less than other things, while my subscriber count is still less than 100,000, it's actually getting really close. I really appreciate the boosted support after my last video. If you like my content at all, it'd be great if you could help me reach that 100,000 milestone. Anyhow, I got this fact from Mario Broth blog on Twitter, but apparently in the German version of Smash Ultimate, the box cover actually removes Yoshi. This is to make space for the large green ratings mark here, but they completely removed Yoshi to make space for this variant. There is not much else to this fact, I just think it's kinda hysterical. It takes the whole Mike Wazowski gag to a whole new level. But enough of the pointless facts, huh? Let's get on to some hardcore tech with this fact by Trin regarding Meta Knight on Temple. If you get to this spot on Temple with Meta Knight on the left side here and use up throw, if we zoom out, we can guess that maybe this pillar here is what's sort of shifting the throw or something. It feels like the circumstances are really specific though, because this KO option does not work if Meta Knight starts the up throw from the right side. And it didn't seem to work at all for the other up throws that are like this. The only character I noticed anything with was K. Rool, where starting from the right side, this does kind of happen, but not fully. He'll land in the air slightly below the platform. What I find really weird though is that this is what Meta Knight's up throw should do. See, if he uses up throw on the moving platform, he'll hit an invisible floor. So the fact that this same thing doesn't happen here on Temple is really weird. But you never know when a trick like this might come in handy. Now I get it, perhaps that was too incredibly useful for you, so let's move on to just an aesthetic fact, like this one from Spirit Squirtle regarding the Great Bay stage. Now, I love Zelda, so this fact may mean totally nothing to you, but if you pause the game and look at the background of Great Bay, you'll see that the camera lets you move more than you can normally see in a match. And going left enough, you'll be able to spot a heart piece right in the distance. This actually matches its location in the game too, where you have to hookshot to a bean spot, make the bean platform, ride it to another platform, and summon Pierre the Scarecrow to hookshot onto. Of course, the hookshot pillar and all that other stuff is missing here, but I still find it really cool that they thought to put the heart piece, even though it should technically be too small to see from the floating lab. You can also see the entrance to the Paris Fortress. I tried this on Gerudo Valley too, but I didn't notice anything. I honestly don't think this area really represents anything specific to the game outside of this tent here. It's missing way too many key details. But you can see the Gerudo's hideout in the distance, which is pretty neat. Did I use that as an excuse to talk about Zelda a little bit? Yes. But I honestly think that sometimes it's nice to just sit back and appreciate the details put into the game that we oftentimes look over, especially in the heat of battle. Alright, enough positivity here. I want to talk about something brought up by Twigo regarding Pichu and Pikachu's Final Smashes. That is, did you know that Pikachu's Final Smash actually deals slightly less damage than Pichu's Final Smash? You can make the argument that Pichu sort of earns that extra damage since he takes a lot of self-damage from using the move, and in that case I can kinda see that, I guess. But I think this type of fact is something worth considering. Final Smashes across the board deal a wide variety of damage, which is odd considering how similar they are. Falcon's Final Smash activates by hitting opponents generally in front of you in this sort of range. It deals 48%. Fox's Final Smash range is practically the same. It deals over 51%. A small difference, but a difference nonetheless. We can see this with Mii Brawler and Greninja too, whose Final Smashes are basically carbon copies of one another. Greninja's does 62%, while Mii Brawler's does 67%. But this difference in damage is pretty huge between the cutscenes and these pseudo cutscenes. They're both activated by one hit that happens in front of them, yet Falcon's Final Smash deals almost 20% less than Mii Brawler's. You can make the argument that the activation hitbox of Falcon's and Fox's is larger, so therefore it deserves less percent, but I feel like in practicality, the activation hitbox isn't really that much of a factor. Also, something I find funny is that Sheik's Final Smash does more damage than King K. Rool's, despite them being activated generally the same way. However, her kill power isn't quite the same, which I guess is actually really fitting for Sheik. And I do have to give them credit, Donkey Kong's Final Smash is basically identical to Little Mac's, and they do actually do the same percent. So it's not all wonky, really, which makes me believe there is some sort of line of logic for some of these other decisions, maybe. But generally, Final Smashes that seem to be activated the same way can do different percents or KO at different percents, for seemingly no reason. These differences probably aren't even noticeable in practice, but it does make me wonder what drove these decisions from a balancing standpoint. Perhaps I'm underestimating the differences of some of these activation hitboxes or something? I don't know, just food for thought. Enough complaining though, let's just get to some crazy stuff, while sticking to Final Smashes with this fact from WoBub1 on Twitter, showcasing a neat glitch revolving around Olimar and Zelda. If you go into Mega Smash with Super Mushrooms turned on, wait for Zelda to get her Final Smash, make Olimar big, and make sure your big Pikmin are on Zelda, have Zelda use her Final Smash, and your Pikmin have turned to Bigmin. They've retained their mega size even when you shrink again, meaning if you get another Super Mushroom, they grow again. And boy, does this make them big. It's especially easy to see with aerials, which now reach basically the entire screen. Unfortunately, you won't be able to do this glitch in a normal environment, since at normal size the Pikmin are weaker and thus they seem to die from Zelda's Final Smash, instead of getting sort of sucked in. I think that's how that works. It either works like that, or the Final Smash hitboxes and whatnot affect the Pikmin differently when everyone is bigger. Either way, I was curious if I could sort of circumvent this with spirits maybe. And after equipping myself with high defense, while the first two Pikmin did perish, the blue one didn't, and the glitch worked. Now the effects are a lot less noticeable when we're not super duper mega, but the blue Pikmin is clearly larger than normal. So if you want a quick and easy way to increase Olimar's aerial range and whatnot, this will do it. I was curious about one thing though, that is if having the Pikmin be large like this affected Olimar's up B. Now getting the blue Pikmin to survive again was actually pretty difficult. It might not have even involved the spirit defense and whatnot, it might just be a positioning thing like I said before, but eventually he did survive again. Now when I used up B with the big blue Pikmin, I got to about the 11 unit block here. And when I used up B with a normal sized blue Pikmin, I got to about the same spot. So it doesn't seem like whether or not your Pikmin is glitched out will affect your up B. Continuing off of Olimar's up B, we're going back to some more weight questions, with this one by Faded Phoenix. which asks if Olimar will travel this distance if he's metal, as if he's carrying a lot of Pikmin. Now for those of you who didn't realize it before, Olimar's up B will be less effective if he's carrying a lot of Pikmin. When he's carrying none, he can go all the way past the 15 unit here, but with Pikmin, he can barely go anywhere horizontally. But I did this test just vertically, so any difference is solely due to the up B's limit, not due to aerial drift or whatever. And normally, with no Pikmin, Olimar goes up to about the 15 mark. However, when he's metal, he only goes up to about 12, which is a little bit lower than when Olimar is only carrying one blue Pikmin. So honestly, yeah, it looks like being metal does end up affecting how far Olimar can go with this up B. I was curious if this was a weight thing though, so I also tested this with the lightweight spirits. However, neither of the heights seemed to change when this was equipped. So it may not be directly a weight thing, but being metal certainly does affect your up B's distance. Let's just go back to glitches now, shall we? This one from Tomas Farinha regards by this bow when he's holding a Pokeball. That is, if you hold a Pokeball charged by this arrow, then turn around, you see that the bow is not facing the right way at all. I guess they didn't code it in to where the bow hides the item that you're holding when you turn around. So the item and the bow sort of mess with each other here. This doesn't exclusively happen with the Pokeball though. It can happen with loads of other items like the bomber, the capsule, the bullet bill, the smart bomb, basically any item that you can carry and is pretty large. I like the Freezy the most, since it makes it look like Byleth is about to shoot an ice arrow. Next up, Nail_HK asks if hitting both ice climbers will stale your move twice over. Now normally the first back air will do 13.2%, the second will do 11.4%, and the third will do 10.3%. If hitting both ice climbers here staled separately, then that would mean the next hit should do 10.3%. But it does 11.4%, meaning it only counts as its second hit, so hitting both ice climbers will not stale your move twice. However, if you hit them, then hit just the secondary ice climber, your next hit will do 10.3%. So while hitting them at the same time doesn't stale separately, hitting just Nana alone will stale. So it's not like Nana is immune to staling your moves, that just doesn't happen when they both get hit at the same time, likely because they thought ahead about how terrible that would be. And lastly for this video, S gives me a really neat fact regarding CPUs in training mode. You know how when you set the CPU to jump, they, well, you know, jump? But if you set them to this when they're under a ladder, rather than jumping, they'll climb the ladder in its entirety first, and then start jumping. Now, I'm no jumping expert, I can barely get out of bed in the morning, but pressing the jump button under the ladder never makes me climb it. So why would setting the CPU to jump cause it to climb? Well, pressing a button to jump isn't the only way to jump. If you have tap jump on, you can jump by pushing the control stick upwards. And sure enough, if you push the control stick upwards while under a ladder, you climb it. So this gives decent reason to believe that when the CPU is jumping here, the hypothetical input that they're using is actually the tap jump, not just a normal jump button press. I'm not sure how valid this type of claim is, but I think it's pretty cool to think about nonetheless. Anyhow, that'll do it for today's video. Hope you thought some of these wacky things were interesting. I'd like to thank my patrons Felipe Morla, Skully, Avenkaru, Burbo, Cody Benda, Raighne, Feurolant, Aman Shareef, PinkieOats, and Xammary. I feel like things are pretty quiet lately in terms of exciting game announcements and whatnot. Of course, we have that Breath of the Wild prequel that was just announced, but I've never really been into the Warrior games anyways. But we've still got crickets in regards to any Smash news or whatever, and generally we have no big directs or anything to look forward to. Now that's not to say things are quiet necessarily, but I did recently stop using Twitter for my own mental health, so I guess a consequence of that is being a little bit outside of the loop. But I still browse YouTube, and I know that Minecraft is going to be having a big event on the 3rd, which I'm frankly excited for. It's been a while since there was a large gaming event that I was actually interested in. Now, as of making this script, I have no idea what these new mobs are like, but I feel like the glowing squid or the ice villager or whatever will be pretty cool. Minecraft is still relevant, right? I say that as I show TF2 footage as my background. Anyhow, rambling out of the way, make sure you subscribe, stay casual, and I'll see y'all next time.